Mercedes' Formula One team is the most dominant force in the turbo hybrid era, clinching all the drivers and constructors titles since 2014 except last year's drivers title. But with the introduction of new rules and regulations, all teams have to introduce massive changes to their 2022 challengers. The Brackley-based team was unable to adopt these changes, and their transition was not a smooth one, suffering a lot with the porpoising issue since the preseason testing. Now, almost half of the 2022 season is completed, and Mercedes are still suffering a lot from these aerodynamic issues. The FIA has issued new technical directives regarding these bouncing problems, and there's a threat of disqualifying the Mercedes F1 team in an upcoming race. If such a thing happens, it would be a terrible thing for Mercedes, who won all their constructor championships in the turbo hybrid era. Let's explore the latest developments regarding this unsolved bouncing issue of Mercedes. Mercedes showed a greater improvement in Montreal after raising the ride height of the W13 to try and ease the porpoising problems that they continuously suffered. These upgrades seem to be bringing the reigning constructors champions closer to the Red Bull and Ferrari at the head of the field. Lewis Hamilton suffered a lot physically with the issues in W13 during the Azerbaijan GP, where he was also unable to come out of the car with those physical pains. He said that the W13's bouncing issue had been solved to a greater extent after the race in Montreal, which gave a satisfactory 3-4 finish at the end of the race. Mercedes technical director Mike Elliott confirmed that they are going to bring some upgrades with the aim of trying to push the car forward and up the field. One thing you can be sure of is we will push as hard as we can, Elliott said in Mercedes' post-race debrief video. We'll be bringing new bits to Silverstone. We'll be trying to push the car forward, trying to get some pace from the car we've got or from the package we've got, as well as the new bits we are going to add to it. I think at the same time, though, we have to be honest with ourselves and say that at the moment, we are just a little bit behind those front runners in Ferrari and Red Bull. And in a normal race, I think it is going to be tough. But after 3 consecutive street races, Silverstone represents a return to a more conventional circuit in Formula One. And after showing potential at the last circuit of that ilk in Spain, Elliott hopes to see Mercedes elevate themselves further and put on a show for the drivers' home supporters. I think Silverstone will be a circuit that suits us a little bit better, like Barcelona did. But maybe it will just be a little bit difficult. Whatever happens, we will push as hard as we can, he said. Our drivers will push as hard as we can because we want to get back into winning. We want to win for the team. We definitely want to win, and we want to win for you, the fans. So let's see what happens, he added further. Formula One governing body has decided to intervene in the current bouncing problems of the 2022 challengers, saying that the extreme bouncing nature could affect the driver's concentration and lead to health issues. This sudden decision was taken by FIA after the race in Baku, where many drivers complained about physical pains due to extreme bouncing in the cars. In a statement, the FIA said, following the 8th round of this year's FIA Formula One World Championship, during which the phenomenon of aerodynamic oscillation of the new generation of F1 cars and the effect of this during and after the race on the physical condition of the drivers was once again visible, the FIA, as the governing body of the sport, has decided that in the interest of the safety, it is necessary to intervene to require that the teams make the necessary adjustments to reduce or to eliminate this phenomenon. The FIA has issued a technical directive on how it intends to tackle the problem ahead of the Canadian GP. These directives force the teams struggling with the bouncing problems to alter the setup of their car, both in terms of their design and the observed wear, with the limit on the level of vertical oscillation being introduced. Bouncing will not be punished till the French Grand Prix weekend, as the teams are given a considerable amount of time to address their bouncing issues. If the problem continues even after the French Grand Prix, teams will be disqualified according to the current technical directives issued by the FIA. Now the governing body is working towards creating the aerodynamic oscillation metric, AOM, that is essential in defining the limits of the cars that will be allowed to bounce up and down. Once the metric is introduced, any team suffering further from the bouncing issue will be forced to increase the ride height of the car to address the problem. But the teams hate to do that, as it costs a considerable amount of lap time due to the reduction of the pace of the car. A FIA statement said, "We have defined a metric by which to monitor this. The update has been sent to the teams to allow them to conduct their own analysis over the next 2 Grand Prix to understand what, if any, changes they may need to implement in order to be compliant when the technical directives become effective as of the French Grand Prix." Mercedes is the team suffering a lot with the porpoising issue, and these technical directives were also issued mainly due to complaints by the Mercedes drivers. Mercedes technical director Mike Elliott remains against some of the elements of the technical directives, warned that some teams may be unable to fix the bouncing issues of cars during a Grand Prix weekend. He said, "I think from what we've heard from the FIA, it's something they're going to have to sort of work on and build on and work out how that's going to work out pragmatically. I think in Baku, if we're going back through and looking at the races using that metric, it's one we wouldn't have passed," he admitted. "If you look at where we were during the British GP, we wouldn't have even triggered the metric, so I think it's difficult." Mike Elliott also stated that none of the team's bosses would be pleased to see a rival team disqualified from a race weekend because of the bouncing problem. "None of us want to be bouncing," he said. "I'm sure rival teams would say the exact same thing, so we're not trying to develop into that position. Another question is that if you are exceeding the metric, can you actually fix it during a race weekend? Because I don't think any of us want to see cars not taking part or cars being thrown out because they're not able to get on top of those issues. I think time will tell whether that metric can be done in the right way and whether that can push teams in the right way without ending up damaging the show. But we'll see what happens. I'm sure the FIA are conscious of that," Elliott said further. French Grand Prix will be held on the 24th of July, and they have 2 more weeks to address the problem. If not, they will surely be disqualified on the tracks without smooth surfaces like Spain or Canada. Let's hope Mercedes engineers will come up with a solution on time, as none of the F1 fans want to see a Formula One race without silver arrows.